me I should go for it?
Yeah, hold on just a second. We're just loading up. I would like to try to get us all on the same screen, but I'm having some difficulty. So when you're talking, I'm gonna turn everything over to you anyway, and then you'll be able to do your thing.
Got it.
It may be some type of delay, so I may end up turning my volume down.
Let me turn this fan off real quick.
There you go. Can you still hear me? Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and turn everything over to you. Give me just a second.
Peace, my brother. How are you? Brother Johanse, is that how you say it?
Yep, that's how you say it.
Nice to meet you, my brother. Salman Sheikh, it's a pleasure.
Yes, same here.
Give me just a second here.
Take your time, brother Tony. Just give me the green light and then I'll proceed. I should probably turn the fan on.
All right, you are now the host.
Perfect. All right, let me hit share.
There you go. It's all yours.
Okay. So, brother Tony and brother Johanse, you see everything?
I see
Yes.
everything you got, brother.
Yep,
I'm
I
quite
see everything.
true.
Perfect, perfect. All right. Okay. Greetings and peace, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me on tonight's evening presentation. This I wanted to do on Islam, Sufism, and Freemasonry, the parallel comparisons, which I wrote a book recently on the parallel teachings of Islam, Sufism, and Freemasonry, which is now available on Amazon. So in this presentation, I represent myself only, and I dedicate this to Brother Tony Hawkins, who's always been a good brother to me, a true faithful friend and brother, something that a true Freemason represents, right? And I'm honored to do that. So let's begin. So we look at the first point of view, we look at the holy city of Mecca in the east, the Kaaba, and we see the perfect ashlar stone where Allah, the grand architect, told Abraham that I have given you the tools, now build the house of God, to him and his son Ishmael. And as you see the Kaaba, right, you see everyone doing the rite of circumambulation, something you see in Masonic lodges. And most people do not know that inside the Kaaba, there's the pillars and the altar. And the pillars, of course, as you see on the Masonic tracing board, represent strength, wisdom, and beauty. It's not only the pillars of the Kaaba, it's the pillars within thine own self. And if you look at the clothing on the Kaaba, it's the black and white tiles, right, representing duality. And one of the hadiths of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he says that the three signs of God, in the way God shows himself, herself to you, is the sun, the moon, and the all-seeing eye. And in Islam, one of the 99 names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Al-Basir, right, the 99 name, is the all-seeing eye, which shows you that in this life you have to perfect your character, and Allah, God, is always watching you. And we must hold ourselves to the highest of standards in order to be the ascended beings that we're meant to. And this is what even changed Malcolm X's life when he was over there in Mecca. So most people do not know what's really inside the Kaaba, the perfect ashlar stone. As we do the cross comparison, we see the initiation rites not only in Freemasonry, but also in Sufism. And amongst the dervishes, we see that the candidate must be recommended by two members of the order who can vouch his character to the Sheikh, right? Equivalent to the worshipful master. Once recommended, the initiate must respect all brethren equally despite his worldly rank or title. The work entails of chanting the names of Allah, God, memorizing portions of the Quran, similar to memorizing the degree work, helping with public services, and a period of seclusion and fasting, right? Circumscribe your desires and live life within due bounds. This is also during the probationary period between recommendation and initiation. Now, the brother must promise to be faithful to his oath, protect and guard the secrets of which are entrusted to him, and live his life in obedience to the will of God. Once we look at the cross comparisons, we see that the Knights Templars were studying under the Ismaili Shia assassins in the Holy Land. And if you look at their degree structure, right, it looks very, very similar. Where if we look at the Ismaili assassins, we see the first rank, right, the Grand Master or the Prince of the Mountain, the Old Man of the Mountain. The second being the Dice al-Kabir, or the three great viceroys under him, right? The deputies and stuff. The Dais, or the provincial masters, equivalent to the district deputies. The Rafiqs, or chaplains. The Lazik, the military body. The Farain, right? The death devoted. And the Batini, or the secret brethren, which are the affiliates. If you look at the Knights Templars, right, you see the Grand Master, the three Grand Priors, the Provincial Prior, the chaplains, the knights, the esquires, the serving brethren, the donato and obligati, and the affiliati. So as we see the cross comparison, it's there. Now we see the aspect of the Arabization of the Knights Templars, where we see the charges against them accused them of being crypto-Muslim with worshiping of Baphomet. Because in the French, they would call Muhammad Mahomet. So that's where the Baphomet comes from, and the denial of Christ. And they were persecuted on a Friday, which is, of course, the holy day of Islam. The Knights Templars, they made treaties in the Holy Land with Muslims contrary to French interests and betraying Frankish armies to Muslims during periods of conflict. Robert of St. Albans, the English Knights Templar who converted to Islam and married Saladin's niece. In the 1270s, the Templar commander in Sidon, Matthew Sauvage, also spelt Sir Maj, and the Mamluk ruler of Egypt, Sultan Babers, were blood brothers. And Hugo de Payens, right, who was also, he was an African Sufi, right? He was a Moorish Sufi. His grandfather was also a Moorish Sufi who had instructed him into the sciences. And Hugo de Payens also comes from the Pagani family crest in Sicily. So in Sicily, if you look up the Pagani family, you see the heads of the three Moors on there. Hugo de Payens is connected to that. And of course, he was the first Grand Master of the Knights Templar. Now, why I mention the Knights Templar is because subsequently they have a huge influence on what we know as Freemasonry today, and how Islam was a key factor in that also. Now, we look at the newspaper clipping from the London Evening News from September 3rd, 1918. Now, this has been scrubbed, but the archives have preserved the London Evening News from September 1918, where the Masonic meeting happened at the Al-Aqsa Mosque, right? A very sensitive and holy site, right? The site of the temple. And it talks about how Freemasons in Palestine, now keep in mind, this newspaper is mentioning Palestine way before what we know as the State of Israel today that was created in 1948, which is a European artificial entity. So Freemasons in Palestine have held a Masonic meeting on the historic site of King Solomon's Temple, where Freemasonry is supposed to have originated about 1000 BC. This meeting was organized by members of the New Zealand Expeditionary Force in Palestine, the Mosque of Umar being on the site of the temple. The New Zealanders approached the great Sheikh in charge of the mosque for permission. Then occurred an incident showing the universality of the order. The Sheikh listened to what the strangers had to say, and then to their amazement, he asked if there were any Masons among them. The rest was easy. He declared himself a Mason, and at the meeting, he acted as one of the guards of the lodge. The place within the mosque where the meeting was held is known as the Cave of the Rock of the Dome, and is believed to have been the Holy of Holies of the old temple, as it is today the Mosque of Umar. The soldiers of all ranks were present, and after a lodge had been duly constituted and opened, resolutions were passed, conveying fraternal greetings and good wishes to the various grand lodges, to the lodges in New Zealand, and the brethren on service in France. Moving on. Now, many Masonic orders, I've seen this in England, where many of them will hold their hands, right? The Robert Burns Masonic tradition. They call this the Auld Lang Syne. And in Sufi Zikr circles, the parallel comparisons, as you even see the Sufi lodges, right? The tiles, how they all hold their hands in brotherhood, that mystic tie that binds us all, and they chant the names of Allah, God, in unison. Now, also, we see al-Fatwa, the Islamic knighthood and mentoring from youth, which the parallel comparisons is in the Demolay system. Now, Fatwa is the way of the Fatah. In Arabic, Fatah literally means a handsome, brave youth. After the enlightenment of Islam, following the use of the word in the Holy Quran, Fatah, plural, Fityan, comes to mean the ideal noble and perfect man whose hospitality and generosity would extend until he had nothing left for himself. A man would give all, including his life, for the sake of his friends. According to the Sufis, Fatwa is a code of honorable conduct that follows the example of the prophets, saints, sages, and the intimate friends and lovers of Allah, God, taught starting from a young age and taught all the arts and sciences. Now, in Freemasonry, we even look at the Demolay symbol, right? You see the Islamic crescent and moon and star. This is taught in Demolay, right? Where they're preparing the youth to eventually become Masons, and the Masonic youth groups and all other Masonic groups. And also we see that Islam introduced chivalry into Europe, just like how the Moorish presence in Spain brought the Renaissance into Europe and brought Europe out of darkness into light. Now we see that we got to listen to that voice within, right? We got to understand being a free thinker and how that relates to the Sufi and Masonic path. Now, the Fatimiyya Sufi order, which I'm a representative of in the US, the commandment number 3 is as follows: always on the path of the great work of life to death to palingenetic resurrection, rely upon what thine own inner light and what the truth within tells thee, and not what thy neighbor, preacher, rabbi, priest, minister, mullah, sheikh, guru, clairvoyant, astrologer, institution, corporation, superior, bureaucrat, politician, or popular consensus insists or demands that ye think and do. Therefore, the only obedience due on the path of the great work of life to death to palingenetic resurrection is obedience to that voice of truth, emanating forth when truly unveiled from within, the essential light of thine own inner being, or to that living, vertical embodification of the proof of that truth in the outer world, and nothing else. So listen most intently to that mighty voice of truth. So this is a Sufi teaching that we're looking for Allah, God, in churches and mosques and synagogues, but Allah is within thine own self, right? It's just like Neo going to the oracle and the oracle pointing up at the sign, know thyself in Latin. You know thyself, you know thy Lord. You know thy Lord, you know thyself. The Sufi master Rumi tells us that you must listen to that voice that does not speak. That's the divine. And anytime you need to consult on any important matter in your life, sit down and reflect on what you want answers for, and listen to that voice that does not speak. Even in the Bible, right? In the book of Psalms, it tells you, be still and know I am God. So listen to that voice inside. As even Masonry tells you, you are the temple itself. Now we look at the inner temple and the outer temple, right? The Zahir, which is the exoteric outer, and the Batin, which is the esoteric inner. The Zahir refers to the outer dimensions of the Islamic path and what the outsider sees initially, such as the community, prayers, mosques, charities, basic teachings, etc. All right, in Freemasonry, this can be seen as the lodge community events, the fish fries, the pancake breakfast, the charities, and other outreach programs that the community comes to know the people as. Batin refers to the inner spiritual dimensions and what only the true initiate of the heart will have access to. The eye of providence, Al-Basir, the 99 names of Allah, knows who to select. In Sufism, the inner mysteries are revealed by the divine for those worthy. In Freemasonry, this can extend to special invitational only esoteric bodies that one cannot petition or apply for, even if you're a master mason in good standing or worshipful master or past master. You have to be seen as worthy and chosen. And that's how the path is sometimes. Like they come to you, you can't go to them. Now we look at Salik, right? Salik, the traveling man. And shout out to Mos Def for that song, Traveling Man. A Salik is a follower of Sufism from the verb salaka, which means to travel or follow, related to suluk, pathway. Suluk here specifically refers to a spiritual path, or example, the combination of the two paths that can be followed in religion. The exoteric path, which is Sharia, and the esoteric path, or Hakika, to find God. In Freemasonry, one who is a traveling man represents a worthy brother on his journey towards the east from darkness to true Masonic light. Masons refer to each other as traveling men, while in Sufism, those that are a traveling man are referred to as saliks. Now, most people do not know, especially the Western occult system, and I even written a book on this as well, on the Islamic influence on Crowley. Crowley was a Sufi initiate and a Mason as well. Now, people can get into that debate that he purchased his degrees or he was clandestine, but of course, the Western occult community, including the Masons, love him, right? So yeah, I'll tell you the truth about him too. So Crowley, right? He talks about Lam, the entity Lam. And in the Holy Quran, Alif, Lam, Mim are the hidden names of God, right? Alif, I am, Lam, an abbreviation of Allah, Mim, an abbreviation of Al-Alim, or the knowing, means I am Allah, the knowing. Crowley was initiated in 1904 by a Sufi Sheikh in Egypt, and he details in this book Confessions from 1904 and in Magic Without Tears. Crowley recited Surah Al-Ikhlas, the declaration of God from the Quran, continuously. Some say 111 times, some people say 1,111 times, without any break consecutively. Afterwards is when he opens the inner gateway and is inspired by Lam, Allah, to write the Book of Law. Thelemites have Islamic influences and respect Islam as such as did their founder, who is also a Freemason. They regard the Prophet Muhammad in the AA as a grand magus, and in the EGC, right, their Gnostic church, they regard him as a saint. So Surah Al-Ikhlas translation is, in the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. He is Allah, the one and only, Allah the eternal, absolute. He begetteth not, nor is he begotten, and there is none, no one like unto him. And the Arabic transcription is A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Kul huwallahu ahad, Allahu samad, Lam yalid wa lam yulad wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. And this is Crowley wearing his Sufi turban in Egypt. Now we see the Insan al-Kamil, right? Insan al-Kamil, the perfect man. You have divinity within you. And the way you see the Insan al-Kamil illustrated for a Freemason, they can see the parallel comparison very well, right? Holding up his hands like that. So yeah, it's basically it all comes to you perfecting your character. What is the reason why God has put us on this earth? To love each other, serve each other, respect each other, and to become the perfect embodification of the temple, chipping away at the rough ashlar stone until it becomes a smooth ashlar stone, right? That's what it's all about at the end of the day. Now, we have to see, like, where do the Western occultist and initiatic systems get that idea of do what thou wilt, right? Because Islam gives you free will, right? The Sufi Masonic importance of free will and accord. So the Holy Quran, Surah 2, verse 257, tells that there shall be no compulsion in matters of faith. And Surah 53, verse 40, and that man will have nothing but he strives for, right? They tell you, yo, you get out what you put in. So there is no evidence to indicate that each man's life is preordained and that he has no choice or option in choosing between good and bad, right and wrong. The Holy Quran categorically rejects the concept of compulsion and clearly states that every human being is free to choose between good and evil. So Allah has given us what we call akal, right? The intellect. And you know between right and wrong. And it's your free will and accord to decide which course of path you will take in this life. The black and white tiles. Now, most people also don't know about Rosicrucianism, right? The Rose Cross degrees in the Scottish Rite, and how Rosicrucianism is always connected with Freemasonry as well. So Christian Rosenkreutz was also initiated by the Sufis in North Africa and the Middle East. And he was initiated by the Ikhwan al-Safa. And if we see on the right, the rose is also in Sufism, which predates Rosicrucianism. This is a calligraphy of the Qadiriya Sufi order. And their founder, the Grand Master Sheikh Abdul Qadir al-Jilani, was known as the Rose of Baghdad. And the rose, of course, symbolizes the mystical union with God. I have also written a book and separate lecture on this as well. Now we look at the Quranic verses for each degree of craft masonry, right? The parallel comparisons. The Inner Apprentice degree, Darkness to Light, is related to chapter 2, Surah 2, verse 257, where Allah is the guardian protector of the believers. He brings them out of darkness and into the light, which you're being taught to do not fear any danger and walk your path one foot in front of the other. Allah is basically your guide. So the second degree, the fellowcraft, right? You're taught about the knowledge of arts and sciences, which is chapter 58, verse 11, Surah 58, verse 11. You who believe, if you are told to make room for one another in your meetings, right? The meetings, then do so and God will make room for you. And if you are told to rise up like the gavel hits, do so. God will raise up by many degrees those of you who believe and those who have been given knowledge. He is fully aware of what you do. And that relates to the middle chamber. You know, God is always watching you. And the knowledge of the arts and sciences, and how the prophet, peace be upon him, tells you to seek knowledge from cradle to grave. The Master Mason degree, chapter 21, verse 35, Surah 21, verse 35. Every soul will taste death. And this is the royal we that Allah uses. We test you with good and evil as a trial, and then to us you will all be returned. The memento mori, where the Western occultists love reflecting on that. And memento mori is the Islamic man, right? Or woman or believer that is not afraid to die, knowing that that is our destined reality. Now we look at the royal arch, right? And in Sufism, they call this the al-kashaf, the unveiling, right, of the curtains. So the stage that the Sufi gets to when he removes the veils and knows the glory and holiness of God, right, the holiness of the Lord. The Sufi's journey is at a conclusion when he comes to this gnosis and unity with his beloved. The Sufi who reaches this stage becomes clairvoyant and one with spirit. In the Royal Arch system, you also see that your true journey as a Master Mason continues beyond craft masonry. You see the holiness of the Lord and the removal of veils as you go from raised to exalted. And that's why they say the true Master Mason is the one who is not raised but exalted. That's when you like truly see it. Now we look at the aspect of the kashaf, right? In Sufism, removing the veils to know God, Master Mason and Royal Arch. Now the seven veils to the grand architect of the universe, the letter G, God, seventh letter, reason, knowledge, the heart, the self, senses, desire, and will. Only the true seeker will find God's reality, which can be only found through self-realization. You are given the tools, but must do the work yourself. Sufism is aimed at lifting the symbolic veil between the heart of the believer and the true reality of God. So it's ultimately about knowing thyself. You know, all of these initiatic paths are teaching us the same thing. Now we look at Tassawuf, right? Tassawuf, the wearers of wool and the people of the bench. Now the Sufis are the wearers of wool, right? They wear wool, Suf, that exemplify the prophets and teachers of purity. The wool is also worn by the Knights Templars if you look at their hats. As the Grand Master of the First Order, right? Hugo de Payens of the Knights Templar was a Moorish Sufi who initiated him in the mysteries. And his grandfather did that, and he himself was a part of that. Now, the Sufis are known as the people of the bench that were initiated into inner Islam, similar to Mark 4:11 in the Bible, where Christ says that there will be those of you that will be taught the inner mysteries, while those on the external, the outer temple, will be taught in parables. And the Sufis were taught by the Prophet Muhammad. Now, following tasawwuf, which means good character and being aware of self and Allah. Everything is about the heart and purification of self. Your true initiation happens from your heart. So it's like many people we see in the Masonic world, right? It doesn't matter if they're Master Mason, Past Master, 33rd. None of that means anything if you're not following it from the heart and you're not an initiate of the heart, right? Where you wish good upon yourself and others. Even though the mainstream crowd out there, they forget that charge in their lodge that's given to them, right? Where every being has a claim upon your kind offices. Yet they're too busy being bullies and talking down on others on TikTok and on YouTube. Now we see the three stages, the degrees. Now the
I have
first,
a question for you real quick. I had to come in real quick because you've covered so much information
yes,
as,
brother.
as you dig deep, and I'm like thinking, I'm like, wow. I mean, the information you're covering, a lot of it I'm really not familiar with. I'm gonna be honest. Some of it I am, but it's just uniquely how you're putting this together. So I'm quite sure that those who probably in the chat, myself or even Brother Johanse, may have some questions for you and didn't want to ask them or interfere with you, but I want to ask them questions before I forget them. Is that all right with you?
Yes, brother. And anytime you could just jump in anytime.
Okay. Because I read your book now. I read your book, so I want to be able to, I want to be able to get some questions in about maybe 5 minutes. Is that good?
Yeah, no problem, my brother. Just jump in and let me know.
Okay. All right. Peace. Continue.
Yep. So as we continue, we look at the three stages, right? The degrees, where the first is fighting the ego and coming to light, which is Sharia, right? The Sharia law. Tariqa is the second stage to unite with the grand architect of the universe, to basically go on that gnosis. Marifa and Hakika, right, together with Sharia, Tariqa, Marifa, Hakika, is the act of know thyself and know thy Lord, full gnosis. Now we look at the four veils. The first is this world that we're in right now, which is matter, earth, water, air, fire, and ether. This world is the aspect of knowing God and the world. Two, spiritual beings, which is the world of jinns, angels, heaven and hell, cause and effect. The third is the source of the lost word, or, the Akashic records, the hidden tablet, knowledge of spirit. And the fourth realm is the realm of the grand architect of the universe's pure essence, where we're taught that Allah is the only reality. La ilaha illallah, there is no God but God, and there is only God in existence. Now we look at the three stages of realization in the Sufi path, and we see the parallel comparison with the Masonic path. Iman, Islam, and Ihsan. First is Iman, belief, faith, secrecy, and full trust in the grand architect of the universe, which is the inner apprentice degree where they tell you to trust God and do not fear any danger. The second, Islam, submission, obedience, knowledge, and practice, to reflect on your growth and continue the pursuit of knowledge, fellowcraft. So secrecy and obedience, right? Then we come to the third, where you become an upright, righteous man, Ihsan, a righteous, upright character and living a good life with the time you have been granted, right? Die before you die. All three stages must be honored fully, or you are just following mere rituals without any meaning and inevitably leading to hypocrisy. You must practice what you preach, otherwise, it's all meaningless and wasted effort. There is a difference between a learning phase and an application phase of knowledge. So the lodge and these different paths are there to give you a learning phase. Majority of your time is spent outside of the fraternity. That's where the application phase comes in. Also, you need a guide and a mentor. No egoism or individualism that Western society has pushed down our throats is allowed in these paths. That's why they tell you to travel east, because that's where the light is. Now, many people do not know that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was a widow's son. Prophet Muhammad lost his father at a young age and was raised by his mother, a widow, till the age of 6. He married Khadija, right, the widow, at age 25. He said, I have come to perfect the adab, character of mankind, right? So that's the Masonic path. We must perfect our character. Now, the Prophet, he established religious and racial freedom with his decrees, dealing of Hazrat Bilal, who was being held as a slave by the pagan Arabs. He freed him. Covenant with the monks of St. Catherine Monastery, right? The Ethiopian Christians, and the Constitution of Medina, which gave rights to Jews and Christians who were being persecuted by the pagan tribes. He instructed mankind to become one ummah community, right? And be on the level with each other. He instructed us to take care of widows and orphans, which is referenced in the Bukhari and Muslim hadiths. Now, we're always looking for the lost name, right? In the Masonic path, but in the Sufi Islamic path, there's also a missing name, right? The 99 names of Allah, the 100th name is missing, where one of the names is Al-Basir, the all-seeing eye. He is aware of the deeds done in darkness. So it goes to show you that this life is limited, this life is a test. Allah is always watching you, and uphold yourself to the highest impeccable character, and that will help you ascend to the next level. Now we see the brethren of the white cloth, right? And when you go to the holy city of Mecca in the east, we see that all of the brethren are equally divested and on the level. And this is what changed even Malcolm X when he was there. That cloth is called the ihram, and if you look at the phonetic spelling, it basically comes up to Hiram, right? Everyone becomes Hiram. And we see the innocence of the lambskin of a master mason's apron. When he sees another brother in lodge, he greets him. If he's a true brother, he will greet him with love and brotherhood. And that's the parallel. We see that in Mecca in the east. Now we see the concept on the level, right? So any Masonic lodge you go to, let's say the House of the Temple in Washington, D.C., all of the holy books are laid out on the altar. And it tells us in Holy Quran, Surah 2, verse 62, that those who believe in the Quran and those who follow the Jewish scriptures and the Christians and the Sabians, any who believe in Allah and the last day and work righteousness shall have their reward with their Lord. On them shall be no fear, nor shall they grieve. So it's not about if you don't believe what I believe, you're going to hell. God is merciful. God is loving. God is like a mother who loves all of its children equally, despite them being different shapes and sizes and backgrounds. And it's about being righteous. Either you're righteous or you're not. It's not about what you're following. So Holy Quran, Surah 49, verse 10 also tells us that the believers are but one brotherhood. So make peace between your two brothers and be mindful of God, so that you may be given mercy. This is equivalent to Psalms 133 in the Bible, Behold, how good it is for brethren to dwell in unity. The Holy Quran, Surah 2, verse 285 also tells us that Allah makes no distinction between any of his messengers, and that all nations and tribes were sent prophets and messengers, and we were made the way we were made so we can get to know one another. Now we look at the cable toe Sufi Masonic comparison on unity and charity, helping each other if within your capability to do so. The Holy Quran, Surah 3, verse 103 tells us, hold fast together to the cable of Allah, God, and be not divided. Remember the blessings that Allah bestowed upon you. You were once enemies, then He brought your hearts together, so that through His blessing you became brothers. Masonry, what this is teaching us is that Masonry, or the true esoteric spiritual Masonry, not the white man's Grand Lodge, Lodge Masonry, unites men of every country and of every religion and conciliates true friendship among those who might otherwise have remained at a perpetual distance. Now we see in the Sufi path, you got to have proper vetting. So you need proper vetting, recommendation, and mentoring, which is called tarbiyah. And when you submit a petition to a Masonic lodge, it's the prayer of your petition being heard. So that's not a petition, it's actually a prayer request that you're doing. So you have to truly be about it for you to gain anything. Proper recommendation of the seeker is needed, or the Sheikh, which is equal to the worshipful master, and proposer, recommender have to deal with spiritual consequences from God. The seeker must be of a pure heart, intent, and soul. Once initiated, the seeker must be carefully mentored and counseled. Quality over quantity. Uplift the seeker's heart so he can do for others. And as we see with the mainstream Grand Lodges, they only care about the one-day classes and bringing as many members as they can, right? For them, it's about money, not actually creating true Masons. Now we see the Islamic lunar cycle, the Masonic moonlight lodges, the lodges on the moon, Sufi and Masonic comparison. And it is not uncommon for Masonic lodges to meet at the full moon cycle. This is the origin of the tradition. In some jurisdictions, that a lunar month was the minimum time between degrees. In Islam, the lunar months are also followed for practices, holidays, observances, ceremonies, etc., right? They're always looking at the moon, trying to find out when Ramadan is, when Eid is. And there are still lodges that follow this. In Islam, the lunar cycle follows 33-year cycles. And that's an interesting fact as well. And when we die and go to heaven, everyone will be a fixed age of 33, not a day older or less. So that's another thing as well, that everyone in the celestial Grand Lodge in heaven will be the age of 33, flat. Now we look at the Ikhwan al-Safa, right? The Freemasons of Basra.
I have to jump in. I got a question about that one. You
Yes,
said
brother.
in the teachings or what you have read that everyone who enters the celestial gate are going to be 33.
Yes, in Islam, they tell us when we go to heaven, men, women, everyone, we will all be the age of 33.
Okay. Okay. Got you. Got you.
Yep. So as we continue, Brother Tony, we look at the Ikhwan al-Safa, right, who are the Freemasons of Basra, Iraq, 9th century, and Mackey's Masonic Encyclopedia, 2nd edition, page 601, references this. Now, the above image resembles the three lights, the sun, the moon, and the Sheikh, the worshipful master. And their ranks are by age, right? So the craftsmen who are 15 years old, that's when they begin. The leaders is when they turn 30. They become kings when they turn 40, and they become prophets and philosophers when they're over 50 and above. Now, they taught esoteric and occult knowledge with their 52 epistles and influenced Christian Rosencreutz and the Templars pre-1717. See, that's the thing, like, who gave the United Grand Lodge of England that authority of 1717, right? Even you go look at the British Museum, they stole that from all parts of the world. It's not theirs. I mean, I'm showing you a painting of a 9th century way before 1717 of the symbolism of the sun, the moon, and the worshipful master. So, of course, they monopolized it, they stole it from all parts of the world, and they have the nerves to call other people clandestine. And that's what really grinds my gears. Moving on, we see the three lights, the sun, the moon, and the Sheikh, the worshipful master. Again, on the left side, this is from the Bektashi Sufi order, right? And there's even a book written on the secret practices of the Sufi Freemasons, and how the Bektashis had already possessed this initiatic path and knowledge. Now we see the acacia, right? Excuse me. Thank you. So now we see the pledge of the tree, the acacia tree, which is covered in the Holy Quran, Surah 48, verse 18. And it tells us that Allah was pleased with the believers when they were pledging allegiance with you by placing their hands in your hands under the tree. The companions and brethren of Muhammad, the widow's son, taking the oath of Rizwan under the acacia tree. This pleased God, and the companions were rewarded with eternal paradise. A tree of heaven native to desert areas of the Islamic world, the acacia tree. In Freemasonry, the acacia tree or the sprig of acacia symbolized the immortality of the soul that the Master Mason will always live on. And if we look at the Masonic altar, right? The rite of circumambulation, the three pillars, it's all Islam, right? You're going around, you're coming into your rites of initiation, you're pledging to be a man of God, an upright character, studying knowledge, being charitable. So it's all Islam. Now, many people do not know that the Islamic prayer rug is the shape of the oblong square, and you are the temple. And you cannot pray unless you remove your shoes, right? For you are walking on holy ground, just like in the degrees. So the magic carpet, right, as you see in Aladdin and how it's symbolized in the Western system, the magic carpet is basically the Islamic prayer rug, where you have to pray. If you're praying 5 times a day, that elevates your soul to the graces of God, Allah. So you must always be in a state of prayer and meditation. Now we look at the 24-inch gauge from the Sufi Masonic path, where the Islamic perspective, right, it teaches us that the social responsibilities are based on kindness and consideration of others. Our first obligation is to our family, then to other relatives, neighbors, friends, and acquaintances, orphans and widows, the needy of the community, our fellow Muslims, brothers, all our fellow human beings and animals. Now, most people do not know that Morocco was the first country, a Muslim country, to recognize the U.S. after independence, and how Thomas Jefferson also had a Quran, and how Islam played a great role in the Masonic founding fathers in their roles with the Bill of Rights and the Declaration of Independence, similar to the Prophet Muhammad's Constitution of Medina and the different rights and privileges that were given to people at that time. We look outside the U.S. Supreme Court, right? There's a depiction of the Prophet Muhammad as one of the great lawgivers. Above, you see the last king of Hawaii, who was an Islamic Shriner. And we see the banner of the Kingdom of Hawaii before the U.S. colonized it. What do you see? You see two dark-skinned Moors wearing the fezzes.
Wow.
And how Hawaii is the only state in America, all 50 states, that has an Islam Day holiday every September, which is a state mandated holiday, Islam Day. They celebrate it. And we also see George Washington's letter to the Sultan of Morocco, thanking him for the dominions of this land. Many people do not know about John Hanson as well, who was a Moorish president of the US before Washington. And we also see Jamal al-Afghani above, right, who is this Sufi Mason master. And he also came to America and met with the parents of Noble Drew Ali. So, it's all that connection is there. Now we look at the Oriental room. If you look at the Oriental room on the right, this is in the
I'm gonna jump
Philadelphia.
back in real quick.
Yes.
Because not to interrupt your flow, bro, but you're throwing a lot of information out at us. So my question is in all of this tie in everything that you're showing us, and it's uniquely done,
Yeah,
especially the picture I'm looking at now and dealing with the temples. And the
yeah,
mere fact that in the Kaaba, earlier you mentioned that it had the three pillars in there along with an altar. My
yep.
question would be, how many of us really understand the significance behind that? I mean, because I didn't know that in the Kaaba that it had those very unique things.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's how it is. Most people do not know that. See, the Europeans try to come off as intellectual. Oh, they founded all of these systems, right? They want to be enlightened and pompous, and they talk about things that make them look good and feel good. But I showed you right here in this presentation, whether it's Islam, whether it's the Crowley system, whether it's Rosicrucianism, Thelema, whatever. Islam has played a huge role in that, right? It was the Moors in Spain who brought him out from darkness to light, taught him how to bathe, gave him coffee, gave him the arts and sciences. So our people are not given enough credit, and I think we have to draw the line. It's not even about being a Prince Hall Mason or mainstream Mason. I've been down that path in mainstream in America and in England. I know so many other brothers who are mainstream, right? So no matter how good-hearted you are, no matter how much you're trying to do, these people will never like you or accept you. That's why I'm happy brothers like Tony and other people who are like happy and satisfied doing their own thing without the validation of the European. So moving forward, we see, right, the Oriental room in the Grand Lodge of PA in Masonic Temple in Philly on the right-hand side. Look at it. It's a Moorish temple, a masjid, a mosque from Spain. And that's what it was made after. The Royal Arch degrees and the Blue Lodge degrees happened in this room, right? And when I got my Royal Arch degree, it happened in this room
Oh
here in
wow.
Philly. Yeah, yeah. I was
Hey,
exalted. I got my Mark Master Mason, the Royal,
oh,
and the subsequent degrees, including the Royal Arch, in this very room.
all
So
right.
yeah, on the left-hand side, we see the King Faisal Mosque in Pakistan in Islamabad, the capital city. Most people do not know this masjid, right, which is like a tourist hotspot now in Pakistan, was designed by a Turkish Muslim Freemason. His name was Vedat Deloke, and he was commissioned by the Saudi royal family to make this masjid in Islamabad, Pakistan. And look at it, right? You got the square and compass, the pillars, the triangular shape.
We
So
do.
even in Pakistan, you have this great masjid built by a Muslim mason. And
I
on the
think Brother
right,
Young said
I
was trying to say
I
something.
yeah, I have a question.
yes, brother.
This room you said is in the Grand Lodge of Pennsylvania?
Yeah, yep, in the Philadelphia Masonic Temple on North Broad Street.
Wow. I didn't know.
Look at it, right?
I
It's a
know
masjid.
they have an Egyptian lodge in there also.
Yep,
But
they got an
okay.
Egyptian lodge. They have the Renaissance one. They have the Corinthian Ionic. They also have this one. So if you ever have a chance to visit Philadelphia, go take a tour of the Masonic Temple, and you'll
Yeah, I
like it
plan to do that. Yeah. Wow.
because it kind of basically shows you like they're actually giving credit to the Moorish Sufi influence upon the craft.
Wow.
Now we look at the pillars, right? Jihad with the self, honoring the pillars. Tuscan, Doric, Ionic, Corinthian, and Composite. Islam, the first pillar, Shahada, right? Right? You're declaring your faith, Tawheed. Salat, you're praying. Psalm, fasting and circumscribing your desires. Hajj, pilgrimage. Zakat, right? Almsgiving, like you even do in the fraternity. So the greatest jihad that you can do is against your own self, the evil of your own self. You are your own greatest friend or enemy. So if you do jihad with self, like conquering thyself, that's when you become the true master. Most people also don't know that Saladin and Richard de Lionheart were Masonic brothers. Just how in the American Civil War and World War II, when brothers on opposite sides, When they recognized each other, they spared each other's lives. Same thing with Saladin and Richard. Anytime they met each other, they shook with the lion's grip, right? Richard the Lionheart and the lion's grip. And there are certain Sufi groups at that time who were known as Al-Mahabin, right? And those that are Master Masons, they know what I'm talking about without me saying it. And Al-Mahabin were the pure ones. That was a Sufi group that existed during Saladin's time. And they were all part of these esoteric initiatic orders. And if you look at the Scottish Rite degree, the Knights of St. Andrews, you see how that interaction between Islam and the Muslims had happened. And of course, with the Knights Templars. Now, what is it all about, right? You have to die before you die, the ultimate fate, the third degree. And right, Surah 21, chapter 21, verse 35, it tells us that every living being shall taste death. Allah is telling us that we shall subject you to ill and good by way of trial, and to us shall all of you be eventually sent back. So the degrees are basically giving you the truth, right? Be a good man, be upright, don't hurt anyone, try to do good unto all, be charitable, be kind to self and others, and know that one day you're going to go from here. This life is a dream, is a test, and you have to stand before the grand architect. So we have to be true Masons, not the Grand Lodge Masons, but actual true Masons in our heart. Where were you made a Mason? In your heart. That's what it's all about. And that's something that even with me, even though I resigned in good standing honorably from the mainstream Freemasonry, that's something that no one can ever take away from me. Now we look at the Sufis in Istanbul, right, the 15th century, before 1717, and we look at the arts and sciences, the seven liberal arts. Look at it. They got the hourglass, right, reflecting on time and death. You see the square and compasses, right? They're doing the arts and sciences, rhetoric, grammar, astronomy, geometry, arithmetic, music, logic, and rhetoric. It was all there. We were the ones that taught Europeans in Moorish Spain, right? The trivium and all of the stuff that they took, because the Roman Catholic Church at that time, right, it was keeping those people in darkness, right? Everything was the devil. And Islam was the one who gave them the light and knowledge. And if you look at the name of the stars, right? Astronomy, all Arabic names. Now, Rumi, the Sufi Grand Master, says that every moment I shape my own destiny with a chisel. I am the carpenter of my own soul. So again, you have been given the tools in the EA, Fellowcraft, Master Mason. You gotta do the work. They give you the knowledge and the tools, but then at the end, it's your path to walk. And the Star Wars reference, right? Many people love talking about Star Wars. And we see the word El Jedi comes from the Arabic word, the Jedi, right? The master of the way. And basically, it's about you just mastering that force and becoming one with the force. And even that symbol they use for the Rebel Alliance, this was taken from the Sudanese rebels in Africa, and how Star Wars was shot in Tunisia, and how many Masons like to talk about Star Wars as the Force and becoming a master. So even that has a lot of Sufi Islamic influences. Now, we look at Suleiman al-Hakim, Solomon the Wise, Prophet Suleiman, God's worker and messenger. And if you go to Sufi shrines in Pakistan and other places, look on the right, you see the symbol. And the symbol is not of a Jewish origin, but itself is a symbol of magic and protection against the jinn. Now we look at, like, I see all of the conspiracy people talking about Freemasonry and Gematria and how everything happens by the numbers. So yeah, if you put Freemasonry in the cipher, right, in the Gematria cipher, if you look at the Jewish cipher, it comes up to the value 787. If you look at the Arabic numbers, the number 787, right, it looks like a square and compass if you put it together. What does that mean? What does that simplify, that numerical value? Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful. So everyone walking around with a square and compass on their trucks, stickers, necklaces, hats, shirts are basically showing you Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim in Arabic.
Wow. I like time out, time out. That is like, that's on a whole nother level. Let's just be honest. A lot of us have never really put that together. And to hear you break that down and how you say you put in the cipher and that's what comes up, that's
Yep,
what it.
yep. That's it.
Oh,
So everyone walking around with a square and compass, my brothers, you're walking around with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful, the
yeah.
Supreme Grand Master of the universe, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Mm.
Now we go to the square and compasses of
Can
Freemasonry.
you break that down for me again?
Yes, brother.
How that is with the square and compass? Can you break that down for me again?
Yeah, so when a lot of the Europeans and Knights Templars went to the Sufi lodges in the Middle East or North Africa, outside of those Sufi lodges, it would be the number 787 written outside of it, right? And the phrase Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, numerical value is some people say 786 and some people say 787, but it's truly 787. And if you look at it from the Arabic numerals, right, that's the square and compass. That was written outside of the Sufi lodges. And with the Europeans during the Crusades, they took that knowledge from the African Sufis and the Sufis of the Middle East and took that back to Europe. And all of a sudden they repackage it. And now we got Masonry, Rosicrucianism, like all of the sciences that were taken from our people. And if you go to gematria, you put the word Freemasonry, look at the Jewish cipher, you get the number 787. So that's what it's about. Everyone's walking around with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim and they don't even know it.
Mm.
So as we go to the square and compasses of Freemasonry, we
Okay,
see
okay.
we see the G within the
Interesting.
square and compasses has at least three meanings. So it basically tells you that Masonry is open to those who believe in a supreme being. Quran 2, verse 256, Surah 2, 256. There is no compulsion in religion. You follow what you need to follow as long as you're an upright, righteous person, right? God doesn't care about any of that as long as you're an upright, righteous person and you're not a devil. Surah 2, verse 257 from darkness towards light. Mimin al-zulumati ilay an-nuri. And a shout out to the 5%er brothers, you know? So either you're righteous or you're a devil. So it really that's what it comes down to once you
Mm.
eliminate the race and religion factor. So many people do not know, my brothers and friends, is that the gatekeepers or the tilers of the Kaaba are called the sons of the old woman, the Bani Sheba Quraysh, right? The sons of Sheba, and Sheba was the African queen that King Solomon had married, are an Arab tribe that holds the keys to the Kaaba. The priests of the sacred shrine are still known as the Beni Sheba, or the sons of the old woman, the widow's sons. They are the tilers, guardians of the Kaaba. They got the keys to the temple, and many people, don't even know this, right? Look at it, right? The Kaaba has tilers, the guardians. It's got pillars and altars. People doing the initiation, circling around it, the rite of circumambulation. So it's all relative. People don't even know these things. And how even if you look at the Arabs, the original Arabs, look at the soccer team, Google the royal executioner of Saudi Arabia. Those people, that's how it is, some history has been whitewashed. Now, if we look at the hadiths of the Prophet Muhammad, Sahih Bukhari, Volume 1, Book 3, number 120, now we see the importance of secrecy, right? Where Abu Huraira, right, who's one of the companions, says that I have memorized two kinds of knowledge from Allah's messenger, Prophet Muhammad, the widow's son. I have propagated one of them to you, and if I propagate the second, right, then my throat will be cut off, right? So anyone from the inner apprentice can recognize this and how those penalties are even in the Sufi path. And I'm giving you the reference of the hadith as well. Now, what is the goal of the Sufi and Mason? The goal of the Sufi is to become one with his beloved grand architect of the universe and to become better in his adab, in his character and being to honor self and humanity. The goal of the Mason is to believe in God, honor his brothers, smooth his ashlar, and be a better man. Tawakkul is trust in God, the entered apprentice degree. And Tawheed, right? Belief in Allah is what it represents, belief in a supreme being. So Freemasonry is Tawheed, belief in a supreme being in Islam, and Tawakkul, entered apprentice, trust God and do not fear any danger. So my brothers, friends, thank you for watching. If any questions or comments, please ask me now or email me at salmansheikh911@gmail.com. And of course, all my work, images, information is all under fair use to copyright laws for education and nonprofit purposes. Thank you. All rights reserved. You're there, Brother Tony? You're on mute. I don't hear you.
Oh, I'm still here, most definitely. I had
Oh,
to hop
great.
in the vehicle and run an errand, but man, I'm listening to all of that, and I wanna go into your book that
Yes, sir.
that you wrote, and
Right here.
what? Yes, absolutely. So in reading that, I learned that you talked about listening to the voice and how restless you were in the search of truth and knowledge, and it got you on this path. Could
Yeah.
you go into a little bit of that a little bit more for me?
Oh, yeah, definitely, because the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, instructs us. And of course, many people don't know that he's our Masonic brother, right? The widow's son, the Prophet Muhammad, just like how even Jesus is shown to be a Mason in the Hiram's Key book. But yeah, it all comes down to it where we must search for knowledge from cradle to grave, and how this life, you must continue to be the best version of yourself day by day, minute by minute, second by second. I'm still learning, Brother Tony. I'm 33 years old. I'm still learning. Um, 7 months ago, I lost my father to Parkinson's disease. I'm still learning and growing. I got my mom left, and life is just teaching me, day by day, minute by minute, second by second. I don't have all the answers, but that's where we gotta be there for each other. And you're representing true masonry. I'm just tired of seeing all this nonsense, especially in today's time, from the mainstream guys and the Prince Hall guys about the recognition and this and that. Bro, just be good human beings to one another. What are you doing? Right? I've been in mainstream lodges. What are the charges telling you? Every human being has a claim upon your kind offices. So Brother Tony's been in this game before most of you were even born. So, I respect Tony for what he's done, and just be kind human beings to one another. That's what it's about. That's why the world is suffering the way that it is. Why is the world in the condition that it is now? And Freemasonry has done nothing about it, right? Because they're too busy acting racist, arrogant, pompous, and about the white man's recognition. Shove that recognition up your ass. Be good human beings to one another with the time God has given us.
Oh my, that says a lot. That says a lot, bro. Your handset. Is he still
Yeah,
with us?
yeah, I'm still here.
I noticed that you hadn't said much. I'm waiting for you to chop in.
Oh, I mean, I'm learning. I understood uh the teachings of Sufism and how it related to Freemasonry. You know, well, this is my stand in from this is the deal about Freemasonry. All right. Um, Freemasonry is the youngest mystic science school in history. And it is built upon ancient mystic science.
Yeah.
And ancient mystic science is religious science, because those were the people that did it. And you're going to find, and that's why you see such similarities in relationships of Sufism to Freemasonry, you know. And you probably like if we was to, you know, check out and look at the Shaolin Temple, we would probably find very similarity kinds of things to Freemasonry, you know, because the Freemasonry is built off of ancient mystic science. And unlike unlike now, which you have Freemasonry and then people have religious beliefs, that wasn't done back in ancient times. Everybody was the religious belief, and the mystic science and all of those teachers was the priest of those belief systems, you know. And so the information that brother brought forth about the connection and the relationship of Freemasonry to Sufism doesn't surprise me at all. Yeah.
Thank you, brother Johanse. I mean, I'm honored, my brother, to be here amongst your company, and
Yeah.
we're just enjoying each other's fellowship. And you're right, because in my YouTube channel, in the Masonic Education playlist, I've covered all of the religions, Buddhism, Hinduism,
Mhm.
you name it, Confucianism, and all of it predates 1717.
Right.
And basically, it all ties to Masonry to a certain extent.
Right.
Like if you look at the Chinese gods Nuva and Fuxi in
Mhm.
Confucianism, you see when the two one aspect of God is male, one is female, and they're
Mhm.
holding the square and compass, recreating the world together in
Yeah,
Confucianism.
yeah, I've seen that.
It's beautiful. You know, I had the honor and privilege of getting into this even besides Islam. And in the Islamic path, Allah tells us, right, in Surah 2, verse 62, that it's not about what path you follow, but
I'm
submitting.
listening. I'm listening. I want to go get a book. I'm listening. Go ahead.
Yeah, submitting to the will of God. So everything is basically Islam. As long as you're submitting to some kind of a path or divine power, by definition, you're a Muslim, and that is Islam. And that is the beauty, you know, Brother Johanse has even pointed out. And again, for the viewers and brothers, this lecture is based on my book, The Parallel Teachings of Islam, Sufism, and Freemasonry, which is found on Amazon and Kindle, paperback, hardcover. And this
Yeah,
is what it's
I
based
don't
on.
have that. I'm gonna go out and get it tomorrow.
Thank you, sir.
Mm.
I'm,
But
I'm going
yeah,
to add to
it's
this.
been amazing.
The information that you've shared, and you definitely had a conversation regarding Freemasonry, and I appreciate that. And once again, my condolences to you in the fact of losing your father. In addition to that, as I sit and I listen, you said that it was related to Freemasonry. Those things are related to Freemasonry.
Yeah.
It is not that those things are related to Freemasonry. Freemasonry are related to those things because
Hmm.
Very
those
true.
things that you have taught was
Very
here
true.
long before
Yep.
Freemasonry. And
Yes.
so to say that
Yes.
Freemasonry is related to it is not true.
Hmm.
Yes.
It is,
Yes.
Freemasonry is related to that. Sufism, Freemasonry is related to that.
Yes.
Islam, Freemasonry is related to those things that
Yep.
make up the sum of Freemasonry. Because those
Absolutely.
things were here long before the attributes for which we claim to be Freemasonry. I just come across an old ritual, and I will share it with you on another live when we do it, or even after this. I will share this old ritual I found with you. You
Uh-huh.
just stated that Freemasonry has a religious connection. And it really, really does. It took me a minute to gather that. But after coming across this old ritual,
Yeah.
it blew me away on the Q&A and how it was definitely, Islam definitely had an influence. Sufism definitely had an influence. Those things that predate Freemasonry had an influence on organizing and shaping this very thing. And what I'm going to do is actually share that with you. It's going to be a later date because
Oh, I guess he.
You
It was
there,
like
brother
eye
Tony?
popping. Boom. It was. I said coming across that ritual was definitely eye popping. It was just.
Yeah, I guess I wanted to share this book and talking about the relationship. This is called the the anatomy of architecture,
Okay, okay.
right? And it's about this group of people in Africa called the Batamalimba people,
Mm-hmm.
and it's how their whole culture in society kind of revolves the around architecture, and their architectural society, you
Yeah.
are initiated and is broken down into three stages:
Right, right.
the initiate, the beginner, the intermediate, and then the master. And it's same way. The initiate doesn't get paid, the intermediate gets paid, and the
Yeah.
master is the one that, I mean, this is broken down the same exact way. And this is they're in Mali. They're located out of Mali.
And you know, Brother Johansson, that's absolutely perfect because the Moorish architecture, notably the Alhambra, as what I even showed you in that Philadelphia Masonic Temple room,
Mhm.
displays the sacred geometry encoded and how
Right.
these ancient traditions were coming from the ancient Sufi sciences of Africa and the Middle East. Like one of the Sufi orders that I belong to is the Murid Sufi order from Senegal. And
Oh, okay.
we're taught in Islam, like from the esoteric occult perspective, that Islam existed since day one, and that includes Gilgamesh, ancient Egypt, our brothers in Kemet, and how Allah tells us in Surah 5, I have revealed your religion in stages, and now I have perfected it. So Islam was being revealed in degrees. So we're
Mhm.
basically taught that the Gilgamesh system, ancient Kemet, all of that up until now, it was all Islam being revealed. And anyone by definition submitting to the will of God is a Muslim. And that's, the beauty about all of that. And you're right, they taken everything from us. They never given us credit on anything. There's another great book that I
Yeah.
recommend by Professor George G.M. James, who was a Prince
Yeah.
Hall Freemason, Stolen Legacy.
Stolen Legacy. Yes. Yes.
Amazing, amazing. And
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that book. I'm gonna get it.
Yeah. Another good book to get, this gets into the geometry of it, is African Fractals
Okay,
by Ron English, Dr.
got
Ron
it.
English. And he talks about how uh the the divination system
Right.
by the priest and it was in E5, but it's also in some other belief systems. The markings that they make are the um, binary code in which
Yeah.
computer systems was based off of. And he doesn't document it. He might have documented in his book. I got to look at the book again. He documents how the Europeans that studied binary codes studied that divination system, and that's how they developed the binary codes that evolved into computer language.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That I gotta check that one out
Yeah.
too. But look, it just goes to show you that even if you go to the British Museum, 90% of the stuff in there is from Africa, Asia, and the Middle
Right.
East. I mean, who gave
Yeah.
them that authority? Even that 1717 authority, like I've been a part of the mainstream system, and I'm saying that even if you do join that, they will never like you or accept you. And
Yeah.
that's why I'm happy you got brothers out there that are satisfied in their own skin, doing their own thing. Like when I made this, like even my YouTube channel, and when I started doing lectures and videos and writing, this was in 2019, way before Chat GPT and all this stuff that people are using now.
Right.
So at that time, like it came in my mind that okay, a lot of the white Masons are never talking about the Moors, They're not talking about Islam. They're not talking about the East in general. Like they don't mention Confucianism, Hinduism. And I'm like, you know what? I got to do something about this. And I think we all have access to a medium
Yeah,
these
yeah,
days. We got to put this information out
yeah.
there,
That's
whether
some
it's
good
through
work.
books,
Absolutely.
videos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tony, you still there, bro?
Here, I'm still here, bro. I'm listening. Sometimes you can't talk when you're trying to get educated.
Yeah.
As they say, sometimes it's best to be quiet and let those speak who know what they're talking about. And
Yeah.
this is that time for me to like just sit back and just be able to listen, absorb some knowledge and some understanding of some things that I didn't have an understanding of. And to be
Yeah.
able to pass that on to brothers of the craft along the way, which I believe we all should be able to pass on literature and information and not be so dogmatic about I'm so right and you're so wrong.
Yeah.
Because I know there's some things I've come back, I've learned, and no, I wasn't right. And I'm man enough to admit it, I wasn't right.
Right.
You know, so I've added that to my repertoire to understand that, you know, and I hope that those who are here with us today will be able to grow from that, because to me, Masonry is all about growth. I look at myself when I first started doing YouTube maybe 6 years ago, and I look at how I was then versus where I'm at now, is totally, I can see the growth. I can see different things that have taken place with me. So I'm very pleased with that as I continue to mature in Masonry, because I'm never going to know it all. And that's the uniqueness of Freemasonry. And that which it holds is that you're never going to know it all. So you're always in search. You're always digging. You're always going down rabbit. And I like that. I like that for me. So I land that plane.
Yeah, that's definitely true, Brother Tony. And that's the thing, right? Even the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, taught us to search for this knowledge from cradle to grave. And that's what we got to do. We got to continue to learn, grow, be good human beings. And see, that's my dilemma with a community, right? The so-called mainstream or Prince Hall community is that they're too busy putting each other down. Like, are you having time to be a good human being? Are you having time to be charitable, right? To have knowledge and to know what the charges are telling you, that every human being have claims upon your kind offices. We got to get back to that, and we have to know what to do when the time is right. Why is the world suffering the way that it is? When people like us are out here, it shouldn't, right? We're better than this, and we got to do the right thing with the time that's been given, continue learning, continue growing, continue doing the right thing. And yeah, that's what this life is about. It's all a dream, but we just gotta do the right thing with the time that's been given to us. Nobody's promised tomorrow. And I encourage all of the brothers out there, if you're a mainstream Prince Hall, right, whatever, let's say your institution and organization or lodges is not covering the knowledge that you want, put it out there. Make your own YouTube channel, make your TikTok, write your books. I've done all that, right? I didn't like what I was dealing with. I resigned honorably in good standing, but that didn't stop me from doing what I'm doing, right? I did that for my protection. So that way, just because they didn't like what I was doing, they could try to do what they needed to do. But hey, I'm protected by a higher power and I'm still honorably doing what I do best, like I'm doing here tonight with Brother Tony. So yeah, just
It is my, go ahead.
yeah, go ahead, my brother, please.
I was just going to say it is my objective, just as a Mason, not just from my jurisdiction, but as a person, as a Mason, period,
Yes.
is to be able to shed information and shed light and knowledge regarding the craft itself. And yeah, there are some things I'm not going to share outside of the lodge because of the intimacy that I have with the craft and the brothers. Because I
Right.
believe that those things should be only shared within the lodge. Everything is not meant to be shared with everybody. So no, I'm not gonna do that because I enjoy the craft. I enjoy the brotherhood. So things that we may discuss intimately when we go down these rabbit holes, I won't necessarily share publicly.
Sure.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think brother brother Tony, I think my next video lecture is going to be on why is the craft secret? You know, why is there these lessons that are not supposed to be revealed? Yeah, because almost every ancient mystic society is a secret society.
Yeah.
Every last one of them. All of the priests and all they all have these lessons and rituals that they do internally, and they do not expose them to the exterior. So the question becomes, well, why is this secrecy? So that's
Well,
going to be my next one.
I will share this. Sometimes everybody is not ready for what you know.
Yeah,
Plain and
that's
simple.
true.
And if you put some information out that people are not ready for, they will become resentful and hateful and not even knowing why. So everybody is not everybody is not there yet.
Yeah.
See, that's what they call the inner temple and the outer temple, the Zahir and the Batin.
What's that?
Even your traditional Islam, you'll see the people praying 5 times a day, going to the masjid, doing all of that. But there's an
No,
inner temple too of the Sufi
they
path.
true because I've seen it. I'm trying to remember where else did I see this stuff. So I be thinking is true.
Even Jesus, right? In Mark 4:11. Those of you that will be taught
They
the
got a
inner mysteries.
video, the guy that created the generator from radio waves,
Uh-huh.
they got a video of him and doing, talking about his machine. A
Yeah.
white guy went to talk to him and got a video of him talking about doing his machine. And these guys, like, look like agent guys, show up while he's videoing.
Yep.
And I was like, whoa, what is this? But I don't know. I believe him.
Do you have any questions, Brother Johanse, or anyone else have any questions?
No, no, I'm good. I'm good.
Brother Tony, you have any questions?
I'm as they say, I'm fair in the middle. I'm just real appreciative of the fact that you was able to come on, because we've been really trying to make this happen for a long time.
Yeah.
We've really been at this for a minute, really trying to make this happen. And I'm grateful that you have found the time to share with me and those who are here where we're able to learn and to listen and to really make some connections, because as we grow, some things that we was doing when we started this journey, we shouldn't be doing now. And there's a process.
Mm-hmm.
And I just did a little snippet and I said, are you bold enough? Are you bold enough to take those tools and really apply them? Are you bold enough to stand for justice? Are you bold enough to stand for human rights, equality? Are you that guy? Are you that woman? Are you bold enough to stand up? What are you willing to sacrifice? Because so many people have come along and made sacrifices. And then for you to come back and say they didn't mean anything, but you're not willing to put it on the line. I'm just saying, bro. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's my thing. Are we bold enough to really stand as Masons? Plain and simple. Because I'm gonna get ready to go. We're gonna get ready to close this shop. But I don't know what was your degree work when you left Masonry. But as a 32nd degree, it tells you in the ceremonies, there are some things that we are fighting against.
Mm-hmm.
And so in learning that, then that should be your battle cry. The things that we're fighting against should be the enemy.
Yeah, and
And it tells you,
that's what I'm doing, but without being under the control of the mainstream jurisdiction, right? Even with I've seen people, Brother Tony, who've been good, faithful brothers, just because they're not white, they were given a hard time in these jurisdictions and organizations. So
uh,
that didn't take anything away from me. I'm still doing my thing. I'm writing my books, doing my lectures, teaching and uplifting humanity, fighting back against evil. I'm still doing my thing, but without being under the control of the white man, plain and simple.
oh my goodness. I get you. I get you. I get you. So look, I'm gonna get ready to close shop. I want to thank everybody for coming through. Thank you so much for sharing that information. As you can see, I had to take a drive real quick, man. It's beautiful out here at the beach. I just wanted to come out just for a second. But definitely it's awesome to have you here today. And Brother Johan, say thank you for always being a team player. Thank you for coming through, hanging out with me for today.
Appreciate you both. Thank you, Brother Tony. It's always my pleasure. You always supported me as well.
All right, gentlemen, we're going to call it a day. Enjoy your day. Until next time, peace
All right.
and be well.
Peace.
Peace.
All right. I had to claim the host back in order for me to shut it down.
No worries.
Let's see where I'm at. Disconnect. Oh, there you go up here. I think I got it.